What people argue is that chattel slavery, based on the invented concept of whiteness and blackness, was unique in American society. And not only is the uniqueness of whiteness something that was a modern creation, you can draw direct lines of benefit from chattel slavery to the people and institutions today. PragerU with Candace Owens on slavery. Is this real life? All right, well, we're going to interrupt our regularly scheduled program to... I don't even know what to title this. I have an idea. I haven't even seen it yet, chat, but we're gonna go through it together. I'm just gonna pre-debunk. All right, let's watch this. Let's get it going. I'm already in pain.
And now for a brief history of slavery. Here's the first thing you need to know. Slavery was not invented by white people. It did not.
All right, right off the bat, gotta have a pause. It was at least chattel slavery, because whiteness was invented at the same time as the chattel slavery that existed in America. Now, slavery, the owning of one person by another, is an ancient institution. But the particularities of American slavery set it apart from other forms of slavery. That is not to say that there weren't ancient forms of slavery that were horrific. There absolutely were. But the creation of a class of people based on race for permanent enslavement did not exist. And the only analog in the ancient world that I think matches the American attitude towards slavery was the Spartan city-state. According to Spartan tradition, Sparta was founded by colonists from the Mediterranean, and they enslaved the native residents of Sparta's territory, called the Helots. And most of Sparta's culture was dedicated to kind of play acting their status as permanent colonizers, as not native to the land that they occupied for literally centuries. So that's the closest thing that's an analogy to the American form of slavery. And I'll have you know that the Spartan civilization withered to nothingness. Because they were so obsessed with Spartan purity, there were a myriad ways of losing your Spartanness and no ways to become Spartan. So over time, the Spartans were killed not by an external enemy, not by a Roman conquering general, but by their own idiotic sense of Spartanness. It's the closest analogy to whiteness in the ancient world. It really is. And I encourage you to study it, because when the Romans showed up in Greece, Sparta was not this proud martial territory, but a backwoods fishing village with a couple thousand people. And so when you say slavery wasn't invented by white people, what you're really doing is you're kind of lying, because whiteness itself, the concept of being white, did not arise until the 16th century. So prior to the 16th century, there was no white people. Okay? You were a Catalan. You were a Roman. You were Milanese. You were Genoan. You were a Venetian. We didn't even have real national identities at this point. So it's just an absurd, let alone racial identity. In fact, when you go back and read the Founding Fathers to bring it to the United States of America, Benjamin Franklin famously said that he doubted that Scandinavians and Germans could integrate into American democracy. He called them too swarthy. So, according to Benjamin Franklin, Scandinavians and Germans were not white. Now, I think most of us know that Irish people and Italian people are not considered white, but according to Benjamin Franklin, he was skeptical of Scandinavians and Germans as being white. That shows you something, which is that this term is totally incoherent, expands and contracts purely for the purpose of maintaining whatever hierarchy exists. It's a political label, not one based on biology or any facts of human nature that are born into us. I'm sorry I took so long on this first sentence, but god damn is it dumb. And it's important to thoroughly debunk these ideas from the get-go.
Not start in 1619 when the first slaves came to Jamestown. It existed before then. It did not start in 1492 when Columbus discovered the New World. In fact, when the intrepid explorer landed in the Bahamas, the native Taino tribe hoped that he would help them defeat their aggressive neighbors, the Caribs. The Caribs enslaved the Taino and, on occasion, served them for dinner. Slavery existed in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East.
Okay, but what did Christopher Columbus do to the Tainos? What did he do? He exterminated them in one lifetime. He exterminated them in one lifetime. So it went from this kind of ritualized form of slavery to utter extirpation of the population and full enslavement. Fucking idiot.
On occasion, served them for dinner. Slavery existed in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. The word slave actually comes from the Slav.
Did she not put Europe up? Why was it slavery up in Europe? What?
Slavs of Eastern Europe. Millions of them, all white by the way, were captured and enslaved by Muslims in the 9th century and later by the Ottoman Turks.
There was no such thing as white in the 9th century. That's like saying, I mean, it's just, what? Total revisionism. Total ridiculousness. Totally ridiculous. And European was not an identity, it's a continent. I never get what their point is. Slavery existed so slaves can't complain because they weren't first. That's like saying, hey, someone else was murdered before you, no complain. Well, this is not even, like, she keeps using anachronistic shit. And, like, that's just not true. There was no whiteness. Why are they like this?
Slavery existed when the Roman Empire controlled the Mediterranean and most of Europe from the 1st through the 5th centuries. Slavery existed when Alexander the Great conquered Persia in the 4th century BC. It was so common that Aristotle simply considered it natural. The slave-master model was just how the world operated in the great philosopher's day.
All right, I'm sorry. My mouth is agape because I've never heard a modern human defend slavery as natural. This feels like I'm reading fucking Cotton is King speech. All right. When you read that philosophy, Jesus Christ, the Greeks considered slaves to be morally bankrupt because their cultures, not their race, lacked the willingness to die for their own freedom. So that justified, because of their moral turpitude, that justified their domination because they lacked the type of willingness to fight and die. So because they lacked the virtue, the subordination was justifiable. Now, does that sound like a modern moral system to you? Just I don't know what to say.
Slavery existed during the time of the ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago.
Okay, now I'm really all I could say is like, holy shit. They even have the ancient Egyptian slaves, they have them with dark skin and what appears to be like close cropped curly hair.
As far back as we can go in human history, we find slavery. As renowned historian John Steele Gordon notes from time immemorial, slaves were a major item of commerce. As much as a third of the population of the ancient world was enslaved. Here's the second thing you need to know. White people were the first to formally put an end to slavery. In 1833, Britain was the first country in the history of the world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act. They were quickly followed by France, who in 1848 abolished slavery in her many colonies. Then, of course, came the 13th Amendment in the United States Constitution.
Okay. This American nationalist shit is just bullshit. First of all, it's Protestant propaganda as well. Holy shit. The United States of America was one of the last countries on to abolish slavery. Mexico, Britain, France. I'm just thinking Denmark. All had abolished slavery. I think there is a chronology here. Let me see if I can find it. Vermont banned slavery in 1777. Denmark bans import of slaves in 1792. Britain passes the Abolition of Slave Trade Act in 1807, 60 years before the end of the Civil War. Spain abolishes slavery. We abolished the international slave trade because in 1808 that was in the Constitution. Spain abolishes slavery and including its colonies in 1811, but Cuba rejects the ban. Sweden bans slaves. Netherlands banned slaves. France banned slave trading. Britain passes an Abolition of Slave Trade Act. Spain does. Portugal abolishes slave trade north of the equator. Let's see here. 1846, 1848, 1851. Like, the United States of America was behind the curve in Europe.
Centuries of human slavery. White
men. And Haiti. God, that's such a great example. Where's Haiti? What the fuck? Slavery was abolished in Japan in 1590.
Led the world in putting an end to the abhorrent practice.
Bro, they were the ones that did it. That's why whiteness exists. White men created the concept of whiteness in order to do the slavery. You don't get to kill millions of people and enslave tens of millions of others, extracting trillions of dollars of wealth, and then say, hey, I stopped stabbing you. There's a quote from Malcolm X that I want to show you at this point. Are you ready?
However, that we're making progress in this country and worldwide?
No. I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull the knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
You haven't, however, that we're making progress in.
They won't even admit the knife is there.
That includes the 300,000 Union soldiers, overwhelmingly white, who died during the Civil War.
Because they wouldn't even allow black people to fight for years. For years. And they wouldn't allow black men to serve as officers in the Union Army. Then, one of the first all-volunteer black units was destroyed to the man in a vanguard action. There's a movie dramatizing it called Glory. I recommend you go look it up. It has Morgan Freeman. It has Denzel Washington, Matthew Broderick. It's pretty good. That's what it took. And then when they were finally allowed to join the military to fight for their own freedom, hundreds of thousands of freed black men joined. And they had some of the most distinguished units in the entire Civil War. And because they had to. Because the Confederates would execute every single black man they captured under arms and their white officers. No quarter for black men. They would call that a servile insurrection. Again, the fact that the United States had to fight a civil war to abolish slavery is not a good look for white dudes, just so you know. The men who fought to end slavery, that's good. But the fact that we had to fight a bloody civil war over 4 years is not exactly a wow, look at how good the white guys are doing. What are you talking about?
Now, am I saying that this makes white people better than anyone else? Of course not.
How would they be better when they're the ones institutionalizing slavery? How is it? I stabbed you and I pulled the knife out. Am I better than other people? Yeah, I'm pretty good. The way that I pulled that knife out was really sweet. Man, that was really moral of me to pull that knife out.
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive. But the Negro in this country, the future of the Negro in this country is precisely as bright or as dark as the future of the country. It is entirely up to the American people and our representatives. It is entirely up to the American people whether or not they're going to face and deal with and embrace this stranger whom they've maligned so long. What white people have to do is try to find out in their own hearts why it was necessary to have a nigger in the first place. Because I'm not a nigger, I'm a man. But if you think I'm a nigger, it means you need him. The question you've got to ask yourself, the white population of this country has got to ask itself, north and south, because it's one country, and for a Negro, there is no difference in the north and the south. There's just a difference in the way they castrate you. But the fact of the castration is the American fact. If I'm not the nigger here, and you invented him, you, the white people, invented him, then you got to find out why.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, this is a rhetorical thing. He's trying to get people to reflect, but it's a historical reason. They wanted to exploit their labor. They wanted to steal. They wanted to get rich. That's it. It was economic motivation. And then racism dovetailed in to support the position of power of the planter class, which was rich white guys. And they knew that they could subordinate poor white people by giving them what was known as the racial bribe. Hey, you may be a poor white guy, but you're better than every black person. Doesn't matter if you don't have a single accomplishment to your name. It doesn't matter if you don't have 2 pennies to rub together. You're still better than the smartest, most educated, most accomplished black person. That's the racial bribe. You get to look down on everyone that's black. That's what the racism, that's what it gives to racists. They get this false identification with white people of the past, while their own material conditions are total and utter crap. But at least they get to look down on black people. That is, and this is not a concept that I came up with. This is a concept that's well known in the American South. There's a quote that I frequently go to from LBJ where he talks about it. And here, let me pull it up for you, chat. It's from Lyndon Johnson talking about, he was a longtime Southern politician talking about the dynamics of race in America. He said, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, He won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. Let's keep going. Jesus Christ, I'm only 2 minutes into this. I'm like 40 minutes of watching this.
My purpose here is to simply tell the truth, and the truth is that human history is complicated. No one, regardless of skin color, stands guiltless. Yet today we are never told to consider the murderous Persian Empire or the cannibalism of indigenous...
Okay, so this is why she's incredibly stupid, because there is no line of profit that could be drawn from black people in America to the exploitation of slaves in ancient Persia. But we could see the same institutions that profited off of chattel slavery still exist. The same families that built their intergenerational wealth off of slavery still exist. The same insurance companies, the same banks, the same universities that profited from the sale of human beings whose descendants live today still exist. The racial caste system that continued to the 20th century, that continued to this day, still exists. I mean, for God's sake, interracial marriage wasn't legalized in this country till 1967. Both of my parents are older than that. What are you talking about, Candace? Are you nuts?
Tribes of North and South America, or the heinous actions under the imperialistic Muslim, Chinese, Mongol, or Japanese empires, to name just a few.
Absolutely no one. In fact, Korea and China to this day still have righteous anger about the exploitation and crimes committed to them by the Japanese Empire. Is anybody apologizing for that who's not a psycho Japanese nationalist? What are you talking about?
Instead, we're told that slavery is a white phenomenon. And like all persistent...
That's literally... Okay,
lies,
this is absolutely just a straw man that they created in their own fucking brain. This is a straw man. This is a straw man. No one says that slavery didn't exist in the historical... in ancient times. What? What people argue is that chattel slavery, based on the invented concept of whiteness and blackness, was unique in American society. And not only is the uniqueness of whiteness something that was a modern creation, you can draw direct lines of benefit from chattel slavery to the people and institutions today. And that continuing discrimination based on those racial categories is evident even today. That's what people say. And if you believe in equity, if you believe in justice, if you believe in equality, if you believe in fairness, you probably think it's a bad idea that there are families that were enriched by slavery that continue to benefit from it. And the families that were enslaved continue to be harmed by it. That's probably pretty bad if you believe in human freedom and justice and equality.
Lie spawns a bunch of other lies. On social media, I come across extraordinary depictions about how Africans lived like pharaohs before Europeans came and laid waste to their paradise. I wish any of this were true, but it's not.
What? It's absolutely true that there were highly advanced African civilizations. What are you talking about? She's spreading this racist myth that everybody lived in a hut in the entire continent of Africa. Pharaohs were literally in Africa. The Egyptian civilization was highly cosmopolitan with dark-skinned people. What are you talking about? Mansa Musa, exactly. Thank you. Just as another example. They are literally polishing up the "we were Kangs" racist meme from 4chan. Absolutely. Pyramids were the tallest human construction until the Eiffel Tower in the 1800s. This is... did Egypt have slavery? Of course it did.
It's a fantasy. The truth is that Africans were sold into slavery by other black Africans, and in many cases, sold for items as trivial as jinn and mirrors.
Wow. This is literally white supremacist shit. Total mask off. In 2005, JP Morgan Chase, currently the biggest bank in the U.S., admitted that two of its subsidiaries, Citizens Bank and Canal Bank in Louisiana, accepted enslaved people as collateral for loans. If plantation owners defaulted on loan payments, the banks took ownership of these slaves. Yeah, that's another. I mean, that's a huge example. I mean, Georgetown had slave. Like, just wow. Okay, couple things here. Whew. Europeans created slave cities as colonized locations to conduct the slave trade, and the indigenous forms of slavery from intertribal raiding were not the same as creating an entire subordinate caste of people based on their skin color and inventing a concept known as blackness, which again, creation of the 15th and 16th century and 17th century. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Whites didn't go into the interior and round up the natives. They waited on the coast for their black partners to bring them black bodies. The stark reality is that our lives had very little value to our ancestors. Here's the third thing you need to know.
I don't even know what to say, Chad. This is unfucking real.
If you think slavery is a relic of the past, you're wrong. There are some 700,000 slaves in Africa today, right now. That's the lowest estimate that I could find. Other sources say there are many more. For context, that's almost twice as many slaves as were ever brought to the United States. Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor, these are the conditions that currently exist.
She just lied, by the way. There were millions of people were transported. Millions of people died. According to research provided by Emory University, there were 12.5 million slaves transported from Africa to the colonies in North and South America. Now, according to Gates, there was around 400,000 slaves directly transported to the United States. But then, chat, because we ended the international slave trade in 1807, we bred them. We bred slaves and stole children from the arms of their mothers. You can actually see the explosion in the domestic population of slaves with the invention of the cotton gin. Let me see if I can find this. The invention of the cotton gin forever altered the economy, geography, and politics of the United States. The cotton gin made cotton tremendously profitable, which encouraged westward migration to new areas of the U.S. South to grow more cotton. The number of enslaved people rose with the increase in cotton production from 700,000 in 1790 to over 3 million by 1850. By mid-century, the southern states were responsible for 75% of the world's cotton, most of which was shipped to New England or England, where it was made into cloth. After the Civil War, cotton production boomed as many newly emancipated African Americans continued to work in cotton fields as sharecroppers, tenants who rented the land from farmers in return for a share of the crops harvested from that land. In the sharecropping system, landowners often cheated tenants using financial deception reinforced by racial violence to keep sharecroppers working to pay off endless debt. By the 1950s, mechanized cotton pickers had largely replaced manual cotton picking, but modern versions of the cotton gin are still in use today. So in other words, Chad, we brought hundreds of thousands of people and forcibly bred them into millions and stole all of their labor. And then after slavery ended, put them in what is known as debt peonage, which is another word of saying slavery. Because remember, black people in the South were in a second-class citizenship. Then they were tenants. Now, I wonder, who owned that land that they were sharecropping on? Was it the same families that had enslaved them, their parents and their grandparents? I wonder.
The same sub-Saharan region where the transatlantic slave trade originated.
So there are 700,000 slaves in Africa today, which is illegal. Every country in the world has banned slavery. versus the fact that we had transported 12.5 million centuries ago, and we had millions of slaves in America and tens of millions of people that continued to live as second-class citizens according to the law until the 70s at least. So the law was explicitly racist on the books till the 70s in the United States. And we're just to believe that this has no impact on today?
African bodies are being sold today like they were sold then. And no, they are not being purchased by any country of white men. In fact, slavery, by any traditional definition, is exclusively practiced today within non-white countries.
It's banned in every country. There is slaves in America right now in violation of the law. Slavery is illegal in every country. What the fuck are you talking about? Absolute madness. And slavery exists in America as well, because those are criminals. Furthermore, American megacorporations just fought in the U.S. Supreme Court to hold themselves unaccountable when they knowingly engage with commerce with businesses that practice slavery. That was just in the Supreme Court right fucking now. This happened June of this year. U.S. Supreme Court rules for Nestle Cargill over slavery lawsuit. A farmer holds a coca pod at a coca farm in Aleppo, Ivory Coast. The U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday threw out a lawsuit accusing Cargill Inc. and Nestle, subsidiary, of knowingly helping perpetuate slavery at Ivory Coast coca farms, but sidestep a broader ruling on the permissibility of suits accusing American companies of human rights violations abroad. Yeah. It's the Africans doing the slavery, not the American multinational corporations profiting from it. Vile liar. Holy shit.
But we hear almost nothing about that. Just like we hear nothing about how slavery was universal.
That's what I said, Funkadelic. She's ignoring the fact that slavery is still practiced in nearly every country on earth today in the illegal underground black markets. Exactly. Holy
until
shit.
Good people in Europe and America ended it 2 centuries ago. Why? Because our so-called leaders, black and white, wouldn't profit from it. Black victimhood is nothing if not profitable. It elects politicians and funds racial grievance groups. And if black Americans began to view themselves as partners in the American dream, if we embraced the patriotic spirit that holds all men are created equal, the patriotic spirit that is our real heritage, then the race hustlers would soon be out of business.
Candace Owens, chat, is one of the... So let me just say this. Normally, I wouldn't waste my time attacking someone personally, but there's someone... Candace Owens is a grifter liar. And she's doing this purely for money, and she's a fraud. We know this because she actually had an anti-Trump website. She was trying to be an online influencer. Like, it's on her fucking Wikipedia page. By creating... Here it is. Degree 180, an anti-conservative blog. In 2015, Owens was CEO of Degree 180, a marketing agency that offered consultation, production, and planning services. The website included a blog written by Owens, which was frequently posted anti-conservative and anti-Trump content, including mockery of his penis size. In a 2015 column that Owens wrote for the site, she criticized conservative Republicans, writing about the batshit crazy antics of the Republican Tea Party. The good news is they will eventually die off peacefully in their sleep, we hope. And then we could get right on with the obvious social change that needs to happen immediately. She launched socialautopsy.com in 2016, a website she said would expose bullies on the internet by tracking their digital footprint. In response, people began posting Owens' private details online. With scant evidence, Owens blamed the doxing on progressives involved in the Gamergate controversy. After this, she earned the support of conservatives involved in the Gamergate controversy, including right-wing political commentators such as Milo Yiannopoulos and Mike Cernovich. After this, Owens became a conservative. I became a conservative overnight. I realized that liberals were actually the racists. Liberals were actually the trolls. Social autopsy is why I'm conservative. So she was thirsty for clout. She was trying to do the hashtag resistance shit. And then she got, as a black woman, she posted something critical of progressives and instantly got mega boosted by dumbass racists. Milo and Mike Cernovich, pedo racist and racist. Holy shit. And now she's grifting her way right now. So she's the ultimate race hustler. Like just a total grifter fraud.
And who wants that? I'm Candace Owens, author of Blackout for Prager University.
Oh God, imagine.
Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Holy shit. Absolute crap. 500,000 views for that. We do politics here every morning starting at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can watch us here on Twitch. We're the morning guy. The morning politics guy. Politics Frogs in every single day. Same time, 10 a.m. Day in, day out. And we carry you through your morning and early afternoon politics needs. And if you need more, Mike from PA, we have a YouTube channel. We talked about suburbs, the My Pillow guy, Ted Cruz. We talked about DSA. Amazing. Making fun of Tim Pool. Amazing. Look at all of these amazing videos. Get in there, watch them. We have me on Twitter. You got to follow me on Twitter, chat. I'm at 20,614 subs. That means I got like 40 followers on Twitter in the last day. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. Go follow us on Twitter. And of course, join the Discord, where we have an incredible community of left-wing streamers. We have left-wing community. We talk about the stream. We talk about politics. There's gaming content. It's a really awesome, supportive place. Direct action, mutual aid. And you can just let off some steam. And also, you can help produce the show. One of the things I do is I look at the links that are put into the news content suggestions chat room on the Discord. Join the Discord, come hang out, and maybe what you want me to talk about will be part of the next show.